The rain outside Luna's diner came down in silver threads, steady and soft, like the world was trying to wash itself clean. Inside, the air was warm, thick with the smell of butter, maple syrup, and coffee that had been brewing since dawn. It was the kind of place where the booths creaked, the jukebox hummed quietly in the corner, and everyone knew everyone, except for the man sitting alone by the window. Ethan Cross looked out at the small town street, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. The billionaire tech mogul looked completely out of place in the worn booth, his posture relaxed but his gaze sharp, analytical. Dressed in a plain black hoodie and jeans, no one would recognize him as the youngest self-made billionaire on Forbes's 100 list. And that was exactly how he wanted it. He was tired of fake smiles, of people who saw his money before his eyes. For years, he'd been surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Employees who worshipped his name, investors who flattered his ego, and strangers who treated him like walking gold. So when his private jet had to land unexpectedly in this quiet town due to a storm, he decided to take it as a sign, a chance to breathe. That's how he ended up in Luna's diner. He had barely settled in when a voice broke his thoughts. "Good morning. Coffee." He looked up. The waitress was young, maybe mid-20s, with chestnut brown hair tied in a messy bun. Her eyes were tired, yet kind, like someone who smiled through pain because she refused to let it win. Her name tag read Maya. "Coffee sounds perfect," he said, smiling faintly. As she poured it, he noticed the small tremor in her hand. Not nervousness, exhaustion. Still, she moved with practiced grace, balancing 2 mugs in one hand, scribbling orders with the other. Her apron was faded and her shoes were worn at the edges, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. "Passing through?" she asked casually, filling his cup to the brim. He nodded. "You could say that. Storm caught me off guard." She grinned. "Happens to everyone eventually. Town's not much, but the pie's famous enough to make you stay." Ethan chuckled. "Is that a sales pitch?" "It's survival," she said with a wink before hurrying to another table. He watched her move between customers, how she laughed easily, remembered everyone's usual orders, and treated even the grumpiest man at the counter with gentle patience. When she thought no one was watching, he saw her slip a small to-go cup and sandwich to a shivering homeless man outside. No fanfare, no seeking praise, just quiet kindness. That was rare. Over the next half hour, he overheard snippets of her conversation with another waitress named Clara. "Greater than, I just need one more paycheck," Maya said softly as she wiped down a table. "Then I can get the medicine for Jamie." "Your brother?" Clara asked. "Yeah, he's been sick again. But he's a fighter. I just wish things were easier." Ethan's fingers tightened around his mug. He didn't usually eavesdrop, but something about her voice, steady despite the struggle, pulled at him. Jamie, medicine, one more paycheck. How many times had he heard fake sob stories from people who wanted donations or sympathy? But this felt real. An idea began to form. When Maya returned to drop off his check, he gave her one of his rare, genuine smiles. "You're good at this." She laughed, a little surprised. "What, waiting tables?" "No," he said, "caring about people." Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, someone has to." She placed the bill in front of him and went to refill another cup. Ethan looked at the total, $12.80, and reached for his wallet. Then, deliberately, he paused. A thought flashed across his mind. What if I gave her a chance to show who she really is, when no one's watching? He made his decision. When she came back, he put on an embarrassed look. "I'm really sorry," he said, patting his pockets. "I think I left my card in my other jacket." Maya blinked, then smiled reassuringly. "That's okay, sir. Happens all the time. You can come back later or pay the manager when you get a chance." No, I'll be back today," he said, feigning mild distress. "I'm not one of those people who disappears." She laughed softly. "I believe you." As she walked away, he slipped his sleek, matte black American Express Centurion card, the kind only ultra-wealthy clients carried, onto the table, half hidden under the napkin holder. Then he left, disappearing into the rain. An hour later, Maya came to clear his table. She found the heavy, black card glinting faintly under the light. When she picked it up, Her breath caught. Amex Black, she whispered. Then her eyes widened as she read the name. Ethan Cross. She almost dropped it. Wait. The Ethan Cross. The billionaire. Clara, her coworker, leaned over and gasped. Oh my God, Maya. That's his. You know who that is. The Cross Tech guy. He's like, super famous. You should call the manager. Maya shook her head, her mind spinning. No, maybe he'll come back. Maybe it was an accident. Or a test. Clara teased. Girl, this is your movie moment. He could come back and, boom, you're the next Cinderella. Maya rolled her eyes but couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. What if it was a test? Why her? Why here? Still, she placed the card carefully in a small envelope and tucked it into her apron pocket, determined to return it the moment he came back. Hours passed. The rain grew heavier. Ethan didn't return. When Maya finished her shift and stepped outside, she saw a small boy sitting under the diner's awning, clutching a soggy cardboard sign. Hungry. Sister sick. Her heart twisted. Hey, sweetheart, she said softly, kneeling beside him. Where's your mom? The boy shook his head. She's at the shelter. We haven't eaten since yesterday. Maya swallowed hard. Her last paycheck wasn't due for another week. She had barely $20 left, enough for bus fare home and maybe some milk for Jamie. Then her fingers brushed against the envelope in her apron, the black card. Her conscience warred inside her. Don't do it, it's not yours. But the boy's chapped lips and trembling hands made her decision for her. She walked into the nearby grocery store, heart pounding, and whispered to the cashier, I need food. Blankets. Medicine. For the children's shelter. When she slid the card across the counter, it felt like her hands were on fire. She signed the receipt tremblingly, and when the total flashed across the screen, she bit her lip. She didn't even check how much she'd spent. It wasn't for her, it was for them. Afterward, she returned to the diner, left the card and receipt in an envelope for the manager, and wrote a short note. Used your card to buy groceries and medicine for the children's shelter. If you'd like reimbursement, I'll repay every cent. Maya. She went home drenched, exhausted, and terrified she'd ruined her life. Meanwhile, Ethan returned just after closing. The manager handed him the envelope with an uneasy look. Sir, one of our waitresses used your card. Said she was sorry. Ethan opened it silently, reading the note. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, very quietly, he smiled. She didn't fail, he murmured. She passed. As the rain tapped softly against the window, Ethan Cross, billionaire, genius, cynic, realized he'd just met someone rarer than any gem his fortune could buy. A person whose heart couldn't be bought at all. Morning light spilled across Luna's diner, painting golden stripes across the worn leather booths and steaming coffee pots. The storm had passed, but Maya's heart hadn't calmed. She stood outside the diner, gripping her apron tightly, her stomach in knots. She hadn't slept, not a second. All night, she had replayed every moment in her head, finding the card, using it to buy food and medicine, leaving the note. She had done what she believed was right, but what if he didn't see it that way? What if he called the police? What if her name ended up on the news under, Waitress steals billionaire's credit card? Her little brother Jamie had coughed all night in his sleep. Maya had watched him, brushing the damp hair from his forehead, whispering prayers she wasn't sure anyone heard. Please, let me keep my job. Please, don't let this ruin everything. When she finally walked inside, she forced a smile. The bell above the door jingled softly, but something felt different. The diner was quieter than usual. Every pair of eyes seemed to flick toward the corner booth. Her breath caught. He was there. Ethan Cross. Only this time, he wasn't the unshaven man in a hoodie. He wore a tailored navy suit that fit him perfectly, his posture straight, his presence commanding. The sunlight hit his silver wristwatch, and Maya suddenly understood why people called him the Golden Billionaire. For a second, she couldn't move. The tray in her hand trembled. Then, as if on autopilot, she walked over. Good morning, she managed. Her voice was too soft, too nervous. I'm glad you found your card. He looked up, and the small, knowing smile on his face made her pulse quicken. Good morning, Maya. He remembered her name. Her throat tightened. Mr. Cross. Ethan, he corrected gently. Ethan, she repeated, stumbling over the word. I'm really sorry about last night. I shouldn't have used your card. I didn't mean to overstep, I just... He raised a hand, cutting her off, his expression calm but curious. Tell me why you did it. Maya blinked, confused. Why? Yes, he said, folding his hands on the table. Why did you use it? For the shelter, for those kids, when you could have just given it to your manager or kept it safe until I returned. She hesitated, glancing around. The other waitresses were pretending not to listen, though their ears were practically turned toward them. Maya swallowed hard and looked down. Because, she said softly, there was a little boy sitting outside. He was hungry, cold, and scared. I didn't think. I just acted. And when I saw the name on the card, I thought, maybe someone like you would understand. Or maybe you'd never know. Either way, it didn't feel right to walk away. Ethan studied her for a long moment. His gaze wasn't harsh, just searching. And you didn't buy a single thing for yourself? He asked finally. Maya looked up, startled. No, of course not. A faint smile tugged at his lips. I know. I checked the receipt. Her eyes widened. You did. I did, he said, leaning back slightly. You spent over $1,000. Every cent went to food, blankets, and medicine. Not even a candy bar for yourself. Maya flushed with embarrassment. I didn't even notice the total. I couldn't watch that kid starve. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Then Ethan spoke quietly. You know, I left that card on purpose. Her head snapped up. What? I left it there, he repeated. I wanted to see what you would do. She stared at him, completely speechless. You tested me. Yes. He didn't deny it. It's not the first time I've done it either. I've left that card behind in boardrooms, hotels, even private clubs. Every time, it reveals something about people. Her voice came out shaky. And what did you expect from me? He smiled faintly. Honestly, I didn't know, but I hoped you'd be the kind of person I thought you were when you smiled at me. Maya shook her head slowly. So this was all planned. Partly, he admitted. The storm was coincidence. Meeting you wasn't. She sank into the booth opposite him before realizing what she'd done. Why me? She asked quietly. You could hire anyone in the world. Why test a waitress in a diner? Ethan's expression softened. Because I'm starting something new, a foundation. Cross Hearts. It's going to help rebuild schools, fund shelters, and provide medical care for families who can't afford it. I don't want people who chase status or fame. I want someone who knows what it means to give, even when you have almost nothing. Maya's mouth parted slightly. You mean, I want you to run it with me, he said simply. Be the director. Her mind went blank. Me, but I don't have a degree, or experience, or integrity. Ethan interrupted gently. You have that, and that's something no college can teach. Her throat tightened, and tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said with a grin. Weeks passed. Maya's life changed in ways she never imagined. She left the diner with hugs and tears from her coworkers and began training under Ethan's team at Cross Tech. She learned about finance, management, and philanthropy, but more than that, Ethan taught her how to believe in herself. At first, she thought he'd forget her quickly, but he didn't. Every morning, he stopped by her new office with coffee from Luna's diner, a quiet reminder of where they'd met. He treated her as an equal, not an employee. And though she was nervous around him at first, their friendship grew naturally. One evening, they visited the same children's shelter where Maya had spent that fateful $1,000. The new wing of the building was painted in bright colors, with the sign, Cross Hearts, Hope Lives Here. The children ran to Maya, hugging her legs and thanking her. She laughed through her tears, kneeling to hug them back. Ethan stood a few steps away, watching the scene quietly, his heart full. When she finally turned toward him, wiping her eyes, he smiled. They said the woman who helped them was an angel, he said softly. They were right. Maya blushed. I just did what anyone would do. Ethan shook his head. No, Maya, not everyone would have done what you did. That's the difference. She met his gaze, and for a heartbeat, the world went still. The late afternoon sun filtered through the windows, painting gold light across his face. There was admiration there, and something deeper, something unspoken. "Ethan," she said quietly, "why did you really test me that day?" He hesitated, then smiled sadly. "Because I stopped believing good people existed. You proved me wrong. Dash dash dash." A soft laugh escaped her lips, half a sob. "You're impossible. And yet," he said, eyes warm, "you still think I'm worth forgiving." She looked at him for a long time, then said simply, "You were never the one who needed forgiveness." They stood side by side, watching the children play. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something money had never bought him: peace. He glanced at her, his voice barely a whisper. "You know, Maya, when I left that card on your table, I thought I was testing your character. But maybe," he smiled softly, "maybe it was life testing mine." Dash dash dash. From that day forward, Cross Hearts Foundation became one of the most successful philanthropic programs in the country. But behind every headline and photo op, there was one quiet truth Ethan never shared publicly, that it had all started because one waitress chose compassion over comfort, humanity over hesitation. And every year, on the anniversary of that rainy day, he and Maya would sit in Luna's diner, order 2 coffees, and watch the rain through the same window where it had all begun. Sometimes, he'd tease, "You know, you're the only person who's ever used my black card without asking." And she'd smile and reply, "You're the only billionaire who's ever trusted a waitress to change the world."